So we'll start off the session. For those of you that aren't familiar with corporate volunteering is when businesses support their employees to volunteer their time and skills for voluntary community and social enterprises. This can include team volunteering days, which many of you will be familiar with. It might be specific support. Some people like to call it skills-based volunteering. Our team doesn't. We think all volunteering is skills-based, so we don't use those terms. But it might be things like IT, marketing, finance, but also things like mentoring and longer term partnerships. So for VCSEs, corporate volunteering can offer extra capacity, practical help and access to professional skills that may be otherwise difficult to resource and sort of get hold of. It can also help build relationships with local employers and raise your organisation's profile. However, corporate volunteering does take time. It takes coordination, and for many, one-off days or poorly matched offers can create additional work, especially when they don't align with your organisational needs. So it's really good to have clear communication, realistic expectations, and well-planned opportunities are really key to ensuring the volunteering delivers genuine benefit to you and to their businesses that want to support you, rather than just an added pressure to your already existing workloads. So well done corporate volunteering can be a positive, mutually beneficial partnership that supports organisational goals and community impact. So one of the key questions is corporate volunteering opportunities the right thing for you and your organisation? Sometimes it's not, and that's absolutely fine if that's not the case. But there are some things that we suggest consideration before you sort of move on to start promoting those roles out. So looking at the organisational fit. So does this activity meet the real organisational need, or is it a priority for your organisation? Capacity and resources. Do you have the time to plan, supervise and support volunteers, either individually or as large teams or groups? Practicalities and risks. So have you considered health and safety, safeguarding and relevant insurance for any activities? And also managing the expectations. This is for your teams, volunteers and staff, but also for the corporates and the businesses that you're looking to get support from. So it might be that roles need to be clearly defined, have agreed in advance with corporates that you're looking to get support from, and have clear ideas about your boundaries, what you can and cannot offer, and look at sort of building longer term relationships with them as well. So if you do decide that after all of those that you are ready to engage with corporates, that's where our team can help, and where the Get Involved Norfolk platform can support you with as well. So we do have specific tags on the platform for corporate volunteering and a dedicated page. So if you do have roles that are suitable for corporates, just ticking that box is all you need to do to have that duplicated on the page. We then do a lot of the background work in sort of matching corporates with those roles and ensuring that gets in front of the organisations that you're looking to get support from. So all opportunities that are tagged go directly onto that page, and it'll be visible on every opportunity that you post. So it doesn't matter whether you do it specifically for corporates or whether it's something that's just an additional like that you would like to incorporate, then that'll work on that way as well. We do have resources to support you to get those roles added on. We'll add all the links in the notes for the meetings as well, and you can reach out to us at any time to get additional support. So we're going to move on now to just get a bit of an idea from all of you about what you're working with already. So we've got a couple of questions that will pop in the polls. I think Claire's going to pop those on for you in a sec. So you'll see them pop up on your screen. So do share your experiences. They're just really simple questions, just to give us a bit of an idea of who's working with corporates already and how you're finding it. So we'll give you a moment or two to do those. What is your organisation already working with corporate volunteers? So that should be up on your screen already. It tells us that it's working. I might just.
We've got a how are you feeling today, Claire? It's sharing the right one.
Don't know. It's a nice question, though.
It's a lovely question.
How is everybody feeling today? It's Wednesday. That's normally a good day, isn't it?
Okay, so I think it shared the first question, Claire. Can you share it again? We did get the question, is your organisation already working with corporate?
Apologies, we've got the results here, and it's. Can you see it?
How much does your organisation benefit? Yeah, I think we might just have a bit of a delay on our screen.
I can't see. I don't.
Can you see the results
Okay.
now?
Yeah.
For the question one, it was 43% yes, 57% no.
Okay, so we're pretty much split, but most people aren't working with.
Can you see the results for the second question?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, that didn't pop up on our screen though, so I didn't. Yeah, I don't know whether everyone got a chance to answer that, but if they didn't, perhaps you can just pop in the chat. So the question is, how much has your organisation benefited from corporate volunteering? Oh dear.
Oh, okay. Not features not available.
Okay. It may be an issue with Teams.
Yeah, no worries. What we can also do is potentially put a poll in, like the email to all the attendees, and we can sort of get some sort of feedback that way as well.
Yeah.
But no worries. It's just a little bit more of an interest for us to see where people are at in regards to working with corporates. But no, that's absolutely fine. So we mentioned it's a bit of a 50-50 split on who is working with corporates and who's not. So hopefully this session will give you some ideas. We've got some wonderful speakers that are going to share their experiences about how they engage with corporates and how they've found those. So should we go on to Pete first?
Yeah, we'll introduce Pete. So we have got 3 speakers for you today. Unfortunately, our 4th speaker, Stephen from Samaritans, is unable to be here, but we've got a few notes from him, and we'll ask if there's more that he can share afterwards. But we'll kick off with Pete.
Hi everyone, thank you. Are you going to present the presentation, or do you want me to share it?
I've got it, yeah, I'll just share it.
That'll really help me, because I'm a bit rubbish off without anything visual in front of me. So firstly, while getting the presentation, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I have to disclose at the moment that we've recently lost our volunteer lead. I'm not sure whether Tracy's on the call, but she's gone to work for another charity. And a lot of the work and effort that we currently, sort of the benefit that we have working with corporates, is down to Tracy. So if she is on here, thank you. But secondly, some of the things I'm presenting is based on the work that we have done. And hopefully the work that we're going to moving forward. So I know I've only got about 10 minutes. I'm going to present to you just our current kind of status in terms of volunteers in general, not just corporates, but that will give you a little bit of context to how important they are. How we in the past have recruited those volunteers and how we continue to. But also the kind of activities that they do for break. So it's very break specific. It is worth saying corporate volunteering is very important to us, particularly during a trial year, as you will see. But on the whole, they really do add benefit. They budget relieve, of course, in some aspects, and they form quite an important part of the wider corporate partnerships. So it's important for the corporates as well. So would you mind moving on a slide, please? That's okay. Thank you. So our break volunteers currently, I'll let you read that, but essentially we have around just under 200 active fundraising volunteers. So they're not necessarily corporates, they're individuals that help within our fundraising team. You'll see 800 retail volunteers. We have around 42 retail shops and it's growing. So again, you can see the importance of that to our retail offering. We also have something called a mentor, volunteer mentors, and this is for our young people at Break who require that little bit of help and advice and friendship. And a number of our corporate volunteers as individuals will come in and become a volunteer mentor. There's quite a process. You have to apply to become a volunteer mentor, and then there's a matching process. So it has to be right for the mentor and the mentee. And I think when we work with some of the young people who have complex needs, it's really, really important that we get the right person to become their mentor. But the outcomes of that is huge. It's really, really positive. And we have a number of mentors who have been doing it for decades, really. So it's a really important part we do. And there's a number of corporate individuals that are mentors as well. In a go-go year, and I'm assuming all of you know what a go-go trail is, particularly those from Norwich and Norfolk. But I noticed there's some people here from Cambridge. We did a couple of trails down in Cambridge as well, but we kind of call our trails go-go. So in a go-go year, and the latest one was last summer in 2025, where we had a safari of animals adorning the streets of Norfolk and Norwich. We had a hub in the Forum, and that hub was open 7 days a week from 10 till 4, and it was really important that we were able to resource that. So you can see from the figures on that slide, we had 340 corporate volunteers in a go-go year. Typically, however, our corporate support is around 120 in a year, and I'll give you a taste of the type of things that they do in a minute, but hopefully from those numbers you can see the importance and the reliance of how many volunteers we might need. Thank you. You can move a slide, that'd be great. How do we recruit our volunteers? This probably won't come to a surprise to all those of you who currently work volunteers, because I think we try in all kinds of ways really to recruit our volunteers. We have some volunteer sites, so Laura took me through the process the other day of putting them on the hub that they have, and it's already been really positive, so thank you for that, Laura. It's been great. There are a number of other sites as well that I know other people use. So that's really important that you get it up to date, on time, and you get a precise ask exactly what you need. At volunteer recruitment events, I've recently signed up for one which I think is on the 4th of June, if I've got that right, the Volunteer Extravaganza. Again, really important to get your face out there, to be front and central and be able to have that face-to-face and that sort of one-to-one with people to find out what they want and to be able to try and match them with your own needs. Social media works in both ways. Yes, there's a call out to people, but there's also, I think, a recognition of the work that our corporates do. So after each of our corporate volunteer activities, if they're happy with it, they'll post a photo, we'll tag them in, and it's a really good way of actually acknowledging their support, but then enticing other volunteers. And you'll see hopefully you can see that photo, it's a bit skew-if, but it's the team from Breakwater IT who actually made that lovely garden house and laid some of the sort of fences and other materials. And they're very proud of the work that you can see, so it's amazing. Word of mouth and reputation, everybody wants a good experience. So hopefully they'll go back and tell colleagues, they'll go back and tell other companies, and then they'll share that and say you must volunteer with Breaks. It was a really good experience. So what I mean by that is we try to give them some refreshments as well. We make sure you give them all that information up front, including a risk assessment, the type of activity they're doing, and even making sure they know where to park on the day, whether there's toilet facilities, that kind of thing. So it's really important you get that information across. Because we have lots of shops, retail shops, are really lucky we can promote those opportunities in there. And because most of the retail shops are run by volunteers, again, some of those retail volunteers might decide to come and volunteer for us through their work or whatever as corporate volunteers. And I've just popped that on there about corporate support. I touched upon it briefly in the introduction. I think this is reflective of the way a lot of corporate partners are now going. A lot of the bigger corporate partners will offer a volunteer day. And we are obviously one of the opportunities they have to take that up. But I think as part of the wider charity of the year or corporate support, there's an expectation now through a lot of the corporates that you will be able to provide some kind of volunteer activity for them. So what I mean by corporate support is I mean it's part of that wider charity partnership that we have with them. So if you don't offer it, I think if you can, it's a really important part to cement those relationships, longer term relationships. And last slide, hopefully I'm in time, haven't gone over yet. The type of things that we do. So we're really fortunate enough to have some fantastic fundraising events, anything from our go-go trails to firewalks outside the forum to a Breaking Clays event. And we're really, really reliant on that corporate support to help set up the event, steward the event, fundraise for us, break down the event, and then there's specific kind of roles within some of those events that we need that support for. I'll give you a good example of that. Breaking Clays, where our shooters go out into the field, they shoot the clays, but we need somebody to count how many they've shot. So it's a really nice team building activity where we bring a corporate group together and they have a really good fun on the day, but it's really important they're out there shooting the clays that are shot down. Team-based volunteer days, helping us to create homes for our young people. I mentioned it previously, a lot of gardening and landscaping is really important for us. We're always updating, we're always having to change some of those gardens for accessibility, for instance. But it's also for the corporate something that has a start, middle and finish. And I think that's really important for them. They can be proud of the work that they do. So most of our team-based volunteer days on a non-trail year are actually in our children's homes, helping with the landscaping and decorating. A volunteer mentor, I briefly mentioned that before. It is one-to-one dedicated to sport for some of our children and young people. It works, it's really important, but it has to work for both parties. The commitment is to commit to it, I guess, in a way, and to share that your kind of professionalism, your own experiences, but to care for that young person in a kind of friend stroke parent type way that they need. Retail volunteering, it isn't just helping out in our retail shops. We actually have a big retail warehouse. As you can imagine, we get thousands and thousands of bags of donations, pre-loved items. They all need sorting. They all need the rag taken out of them. If you don't know what rag is, it's basically those items that we can't sell. It's pretty much worthless now to us nowadays, but it needs sorting. We can't sell those items. So it's really important that we get the teams into our warehouse to sort those items. And we had a corporate team, only a small team of 4 or 5 last month, and they absolutely loved it. So it's a fun, hard, difficult day, but it's really worthwhile. And then I think just at the end, it's about acknowledging pro bono support. Fundraisers amongst us will know that we have to do a bit of everything. We have to be experts in marketing, finance, health and safety, a bit of everything. So the help that we can get from people who do this in their day-to-day job is absolutely invaluable. So pro bono work or office-based volunteering, those of you who know will know how important it is. So hopefully this has given you a bit of a flavour about how many we need, how many we work with, how we recruit them and the type of activities. And if I may just finish off with the last slide, It's got some images on there, and I think that just gives you a kind of bit of a, as I said, a sort of flavour of the type of things we do. And one thing you'll notice on there, most people with smiley faces. So hopefully we're doing a good job and we can continue to work with corporates. I think that's it. Hopefully I did it within the time, but hopefully that's of interest to you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Peter. Hopefully that's inspired some of you to sort of think about how you engage with corporates and give you some ideas. We're going to save the questions to the end of the speaker sessions. If you do have a burning question, though, do feel free to pop it in the chat and we'll come back to you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Laura. So we will move on to have Rachel from Balham Zoo, if she's here. If you're happy to go now, Rachel, as we haven't got Stephen with us.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you for having me to talk to you all. So yeah, my name's Rachel. I work for the charity that looks after Balham Zoo and Africa Live, and you see you've got some photographs there of some of our volunteers. So yeah, we've been working with corporate volunteers since July 2023. So it wasn't something that the organisation was doing until I joined. So yeah, we began in July 2023. And it has been crazy ever since. So I had a friend that worked at Aviva. She said, do you do this? Have you ever thought about doing it? She came along with a group, went back to the office, and we were literally inundated with requests. We did make a bold move as of January of this year to charge. So we now actually charge volunteers £10 per person to come along for the day. That just helps us with covering the cost of tools, and you'll see in the photograph there the rakes that we had to buy and the carry the trug things and the bark and everything else. Although we're a tourist attraction, we are also a struggling charity, so we kind of needed that money to help us keep the program going. The challenge that presented is that at the beginning of January, when we introduced it, we did lose a lot of groups that had booked in, that were returning groups, especially from Aviva and Marsh. But interestingly, so new groups that hadn't come along before from Aviva and Marsh, they didn't worry about the £10 per person. It didn't bother them. They've booked in, and we are now we are actually full until the end of September, and we do a lot of groups. So we have approximately 3 days a week. We have groups in, sometimes even 5 days a week. Group size can vary hugely. Sometimes there's 1 or 2, sometimes we have groups as big as 30 people. We do have a member of staff now that facilitates these days full time, because that was another barrier before. It was trying to get keepers that could look after a group as well as trying to look after their animals wasn't really working for us. So we do now have a corporate volunteer coordinator, so I kind of do all the admin bits behind the scenes, and then on the day she greets them, looks after them, sets the tasks for them. So just to give you a bit of an idea, in the last 12 months we've had just under 1,000 volunteers come through the door. So they've given us just under 5,000 hours worth of volunteering, which has been phenomenal. It's just for us, it's invaluable. We're very, very small teams. So Balham is 65 acres and we have 1 gardener and 1 maintenance man. So without a team of volunteers coming in to paint fences, create flower beds, help to muck out the snow leopards in the giraffe house, we wouldn't be able to function without them. So they are absolutely vital to our organisation. Like Pete said, communication with them before they come is really, really important. So they get the policy, they get the risk assessment. We send them details of our insurances, so they know they're covered. We meet them. Jo, my colleague, she meets them at the front entrance, gets them all in. They get a coffee before they start their day, and yeah, they work hard. They give us 5-6 hours solid worth of work, and they work very hard. They get very competitive with each other. I mean, sometimes we have groups that literally just shovel wheelbarrows full of leaves for 5 or 6 hours, but because they treat it as a race with each other, they just get it done and get stuck in. So that's brilliant to see. Yeah, I mean, for us, like I said, we couldn't exist without it. some of the projects they've done have been really lovely legacy projects. So the garden that you can see there, that's a little sensory garden at the back of our offices that lots of people use as a quiet breakout space from the hustle and bustle of the zoo. And before the volunteers stepped in and did that, obviously it took a few groups to get through it, but it was literally just an overgrown kind of wasteland space almost. So yeah, we feel very, very privileged to work with them. Advertising, we don't really advertise as such, other than like Pete said, we publicly thank a group when they come in. So it goes on our LinkedIn and we tag the organisation and thank them for their efforts. And for us, it's just word of mouth. It really does go crazy, especially in the warmer months. Lots of our volunteers as well had then gone on to sign up to be normal volunteers. So obviously across the 2 sites, we have just shy of 200 volunteers across the 2 sites. So yeah, occasionally we get people sign up. They have such a good time that they sign up and they stick with us and they become volunteers on an operational sort of weekly basis, which is great, really, really good for us. But yeah, we love it. We couldn't be without them. So, I mean, I found a little video, actually. I don't know if I'm allowed to share my screen and play it for you. I should have sent it across to you, sorry. But I did find a little video if I can share it about our volunteering.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you'll have to bear with me because I've got a really, really old laptop that doesn't like to play ball. So I will try my hardest here. So here we go. And you'll have to excuse my bad acting. It's a little bit cringy, but I'll play it anyway.
Don't think we've got the sound coming through though, by the look of it.
Oh, you haven't?
We can't hear it, but we can read the subtitles, obviously.
Are you sure? Okay, it's not long. Yeah,
That's
so
great.
that's us essentially.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So as we said before, we'll come to questions afterwards, but do pop anything in the chat if you want to ask a question and you think you might forget it. But that's really helpful. Thank you, Rachel. And lovely to see all the animals as well.
Yeah, especially the emu.
Yeah.
Love emus.
So I'm going to try sharing another video now. So this is our 3rd speaker, Hannah from the food bank. Couldn't be here today, but I recorded a quick video with her beforehand. So this is going to test the limits of my tech ability. No, I'm good.
I don't think they'll hear your sound if you're muted.
Okay.
Too much from you.
Can you see this? Yeah. Okay.
Test.
So can you talk a bit about what tasks or activities corporate volunteers tend to do for you?
There's two main things that we get teams to do. So in our warehouse, we have regular volunteers that help sort of 3 mornings a week, or once each, but throughout that time in the week. And so when we're closed, which is a Tuesday or Wednesday, we might have a corporate team in to help do either a stock check, which is the ones where we'd invite a team who we know really well, because that's got to be done really sort of quite properly and at a specific time of year. During December, when we're a lot busier, they'll be coming in and doing the regular jobs like sorting donations, packing boxes, date sorting, etc. And then throughout the rest of the year, we would book them in no more than once a month, just to make sure that we've got enough work for our volunteers as well. But they'd be doing those similar sorts of tasks. We'd also have 2 or 3 times a year we're at a supermarket with a manned collection with only 2 people in a team, so a very small team. So we'd also say that opportunity to corporate teams who have maybe smaller teams and can't spare many people, but 2 people is plenty for them. So that works quite well as well. When we've done stuff on a Saturday, most people have said no because they're doing it within their working hours. So we've learned that it is between 9 and 5 Monday to Friday, but people may choose to do it in their own time, but then that doesn't count for their CSR. So those 2 tasks mainly that we've been able to offer.
Brilliant. So you've touched upon this a little bit, but do they tend to volunteer in groups, or do you have some people come through to volunteer individually as corporates?
It does tend to be as a whole group. As I just mentioned, those 2 different tasks need the group in the warehouse. We would say a minimum of 5 to make it worth our time to sort of spend the day in the warehouse with another group. Very occasionally people have enjoyed it and then said, can I help more regularly? So we would then say that's fine, but you need to sign up as a food bank volunteer. So you're then kind of taking that different hat off. And occasionally people have said, we've got CSR days to use and you each use them individually within that company, which seems to be a little less frequent. But people might just say, I've got a day, can you use me? That's a little bit harder to arrange because we might just be able to squeeze someone into a regular shift, but we can't put on a whole shift just for one or wait for lots of people to be available. So that's where those supermarket tasks come in really handy to say we only need a couple of people. So one of you could sign up to that shift there.
Great. Yes, it sounds like there's quite a lot of different options there, and you've probably tried a few things over the years. And so do you feel that corporate volunteering supports your organ with the benefit? Yeah, I did cut out.
You broke up a little bit, but I think the question was about whether it benefits us and supports us. So yes, it does, but we have definitely learned over the year to only say yes when it suits us. So when people ring or email, quite often they'll say, can we come in tomorrow at 2 o'clock? There'll be 20 of us and we want to do this. And years ago, I would have gone, oh my goodness, I need to be able to say yes and accommodate you for the relationship and all of this sort of stuff. And I would try my best and it wouldn't work because it wasn't what I wanted. It probably wouldn't meet what they wanted either, and it was just such short notice. We'll also get teams who say we're booking our CSR in September, so we'll go, that's brilliant, we've got plenty of time and we can make a decision nearer the time about exactly what the task will be. So we have got a bit better and bolder at saying no and saying these are the tasks, we'll only do a Tuesday or a Wednesday because that's when we're closed, so we can accommodate a separate team, and that's what suits us. And we'll do a half a day because that also gives us that other half a day to do our normal jobs, and we've got enough tasks to fill that time. So it has been a little bit of a learning curve just saying it's okay to say no, and that also flips back to saying it then benefits them as well, because if we're respecting their time, they're not just doing busy work, they're actually being helpful. Very occasionally we've had to cancel at short notice, either because of illness, which is understandable, or we've just said actually we've done all the tasks we'd had lined up for you for various reasons, and people have also respected that, again saying we're not wasting your time, we'd like to book you in at another time when we have got more to do. So that's been a really sort of interesting sort of journey, I suppose, over the years of feeling more comfortable being able to make sure it definitely benefits us.
That's really important, and that's, I think, going to be really helpful for other groups to hear about. So my next question, you've touched on a bit there, but are there any other challenges or drawbacks and things that you've had to work around?
I think I mentioned earlier that we said we'd have a minimum number of people to make it feel like it was worth our while. And so we'd also have a maximum, because sometimes a whole team wants to come and space is space. We can only fit in so many people to do it safely and also to do the tasks well. So we have made sure we've got a minimum and a maximum. And we've held fast to that and just said, no, that is what it is. If we've said, I can't remember, I think we either said 10 or 12, or can we have 13? Well, no, if we've said the limit, that's what it needs to be. And we had a couple of occasions, and I do only mean a couple, where people have used it as just a social. And when we've said, oh, could you please do some of the tasks we've set you, it's felt a little bit like, oh, well, we were just having fun. We don't want to be in the office today. So we've therefore put them to one side and said we won't invite them back. So we might have fed that back, but more likely we've just said fine, we just won't invite you again. Sort of internally. So that has been rare. Most people have said we've really enjoyed it, we didn't know what you did, we've found out a lot more, and we'd like to come back if we're allowed to, in terms of their company allowing it and us having the tasks. So those have been the main challenges. And as I mentioned already, about setting those days, times, limits, and being bold about it, saying it's got to work for us in terms of time and the tasks. We don't want you coming in and painting a fence or decorating something or whatever that you might like to do, because that's just not what we need. And we need to be okay with saying, you come and do what we need you to do, or you don't come.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. That's really useful learning. So the last question officially is about charging. Do you charge or ask for donations, and kind of what's your thought process around that?
We don't charge, and have never thought about it until the session where I spoke to you about, never even crossed my mind. But what we have started doing is asking for donations. So I suppose there's an element of what's the difference. So because of our operation being food bank, sometimes corporate teams or visitors would bring a donation anyway and just say, well, I thought I should. And then over the last year or so, when donations have been a bit lower, we have said to corporate teams, if you're coming, please consider having a collection first and bringing it in with you. But we haven't made it mandatory. We have done for some of the Cubs and Scouts groups that we've had, because they're doing it towards a badge, and so helping their community would also include having a collection for food bank as part of that, so that doesn't feel quite so uncomfortable. And we have said to people, we know that they're helping us, so that is what we're getting. I think it's a little bit of a British and a charity worry of going, oh, I can't ask too much, but we've definitely considered it, and saying, yeah, we're definitely saying, please do it. But like I say, if they haven't, we don't worry about it. But that has been met with, okay, that's fine, no problem at all, which I was quite pleased to see.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's great. Are there any kind of key points or messages that you think are worth sharing to other charities and social enterprises around this?
I always build in time at the very beginning and at the very end to share what we do. So yes, you're coming to do a task, and you don't know how well people are going to get on with it, and they might have come sort of for their social aspect as well, but I always start with talking about what we do, how we work, what their tiny bit, whatever they're doing, fits into the whole operation, so there's a bit of context. And then at the end, say any questions or anything that you've seen that we've not talked about, just to make sure they feel that they've really been part of what we do, and not just coming in, do the task and off you go again, thanks very much. So just making sure that we're building that in, which probably people would do anyway, but that's sort of something that people have said they've enjoyed, and said they didn't know what their task was involving, because maybe a manager had booked it and they were just told to turn up on that day at that time. And just the tiny little details of what to wear, what to expect. So like our tasks are quite physical, so saying if you can't manage that sort of thing, don't come, or tell us in advance so we can chat it through. Where to park, all those sorts of little things make a big difference to making sure that people feel welcome and more likely to come back if you want them to.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Right. So that was Hannah from Norwich Feedback. Can you hear us okay? I think we've got that feedback loop going on. Yeah. Hold on.
Your mic's on.
Yeah, my mic's on, but my sound isn't. There we go. Hopefully we can here now. Great, Nikki's got a thumbs up. So I think Laura's just going to share a few notes from Stephen. As we say, unfortunately, he can't be here today. But Samaritans do have a really interesting approach to corporate volunteering, and it's a bit different to some of what we've heard about. So yeah, have you got any kind of insights?
Yeah, so it'll be it's just a really brief one. It's very sort of like early stages for Norwich Samaritans, and they're trialing sort of new things and how they can engage with corporates. So what they're working on at the moment is a 2-part day, which involves an element of team development, conversations around the work that Samaritans do, as well as some active support through fundraising. So what Stephen normally does is he'll have everybody in the room for a morning session. They'll go overview of the Samaritans, the work they do, who they support, maybe meet some volunteers. Then in the afternoon, he arranges fundraising activities. Previously, that's been at Norwich Railway Station. The corporates have gone out adorned in their Samaritans t-shirts and high vis with their fundraising buckets, and they're doing some fundraising for the Samaritans as the second part of their team day. It's been really well received so far. They've had a few corporates that have gone through that day already and have shared their experiences. So I will pop in the chat in a few moments just a blog from one of the corporate step teachers who took part in one of the Samaritans days, and they really found sort of value in it and are going to go back and do some further support. So it's a really good read. I would encourage you to sort of take a moment and grab a cuppa at the end of the session and have a read through that. So yeah, there's that.
Great, thank you. So next on the agenda, we've got a Q&A. So has anyone got questions they'd like to ask the speakers who are here, or you can ask Laura, who's the oracle on lots of things about corporate volunteering. Feel free to put your hand up or just come off mute, or if you don't want to come on the mic, pop your questions in the chat. Got Madeline?
So far we haven't done any corporate volunteering, but we are literally in the process of setting some up at the moment to help with events that we've been asked to attend, where we're going to be sort of doing bucket collections and that sort of thing. And we thought that was a good way of starting to get corporates in, because most of our other volunteer roles, they need a bit more training, they're a bit more intense, and aren't really one-day events. What I'm trying to do at the moment is put together the application forms and that sort of thing, because again, what we've got currently is far too long for what we're going to want for corporates. So I was wondering if there's anywhere where there's any resources for what we can use and to sort of get an idea of what I need to be asking, so that I'm not making mistakes on the first go round and having to learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So is it just sort of specific events that you're going to use the volunteers for, or are you going to have different roles as well?
So at the moment it's just events, and then we're going to look to sort of try and build that out with some other fundraising type events to begin with, or sort of type work, but it's just events for now.
Yeah. So events volunteering tends to have a lot shorter application forms. I don't know if Pete might be able to sort of shed a bit of light on what Break do at some of their events for their volunteers. But I know some of the more like summertime sort of fundraising events is like sign up on the website, bring some ID, doing a quick induction. It can be quite basic.
Yeah.
Pete, have you got any insight on that at all?
Yeah, so we use a CRM system called Beacon, and there's a form on there that everyone who's a volunteer has to sign up to, and there's different forms for different kind of your retail volunteer, but for corporates there is a form that we make them fill in. They also have to provide a risk assessment, albeit that they can provide their own, but we can provide ours for the activity taking place. So I think that's another area that you should consider. Public liability insurance is something that we have, and I'm sure you have too,
Yes.
but they might have to supply their own as well, I guess, or at least you could see it.
Okay.
In terms of events, so we'll give them as much of a briefing beforehand, but on the day, each of one of our events anyway, there is an event briefing. So it's that balance between giving them too much information in advance that they'll forget,
Or won't bother
against
looking
actually
at.
what your needs are on the day. So each of our events has its own little briefing that they would be invited along to anyway to hear the bigger picture.
Brilliant. That's really helpful. Thanks very
Helps.
much.
Thanks, Pete. And that does actually link us into a few questions that were asked in advance of the session from people who were attending. Some of those were about the kind of practical paperwork elements. So there were a couple of questions around DBS checking, references and safeguarding. So I don't know if you wanted to talk briefly about that, Laura, because we did have a discussion about whether that was necessary for corporate volunteers.
Yeah, generally, if your role requires a DBS check, it's potentially not suitable for corporate volunteers unless you're looking for regular ongoing support. If you are an organisation that has roles that are all DBS checked, it might be a good idea to sort of look at where else corporates could support you. It might be that you need digital support. It could be like online social media. So almost like if you've got the capacity and the resource to create maybe a bespoke role for corporates. I know a lot of charities have got like mentoring roles, for instance, that require a lot of training and a lot of DBS and all of those sort of formalities. That's not going to be a one-day event for a corporate to get involved with. It might be regular ongoing support, and obviously they'll be happy to do DBS checks then. But if it's an event or if they're turning up to a warehouse to sort through some clothes, that DBS isn't required, and that's going to put people off and create a barrier. So yeah, Peter, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, last one, I promise. It just reminded me that so predominantly a lot of our corporate volunteering is done at our young people's children's homes, but we don't allow volunteering when the children are at home. So that kind of negates that safeguarding issue. So most of our volunteering is done out of during school hours when the houses are empty, and that we find that during school holidays in the summer we get very little corporate volunteering in our homes. But that kind of addresses the problem around safeguarding and DBSs. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. That's really helpful. Does anyone else have anything around that they want to bring up? We have got a question in the chat that I can see that's not unrelated really. So that's I guess a question for our speakers again. Do you provide terms of references or terms of reference documents, etc., to ensure everyone's clear about their responsibilities? I don't know if Chris, you want to come on and say a bit more about that, or if Pete and Rachel feel they can answer it.
Yeah, it was
Rachel.
just yeah. it was.
Sorry,
it was
could you
just,
repeat that? You broke up.
Yeah,
a little bit,
it was. I mean, when it's just clarity about. Sometimes it's useful to have a terms of reference document, something around that. It doesn't have to be called that, but just to be clear about what the expectations are. I mean, Rachel, and I think the lady from the food bank mentioned people who didn't seem to realise they had tasks to undertake, and there was a slight awkwardness there.
Yeah, so we have a corporate volunteer policy that gets sent, and we ask, so the group organizer, so I send them, a photo consent form, the volunteer policy, the risk assessment, and and I ask them to read, and for the leader to either send me back confirmation that she knows everyone's read it, or everybody to email me back separately to say they've all read and agreed. And it has things in there, like you say, what's expected of them behaviour wise. There's certain places in the zoo as well we wouldn't want people to take photographs or share those on social media. So, those kind of things, even things like we serve alcohol in our restaurants. So it's, you can't buy some alcohol during a lunch break and then take it and then volunteer in the afternoon, because you never know. So, we do have a kind of a policy, and it explains the sort of the level of behaviour and professionalism we expect to see in our corporate volunteers. And if anybody would like to see that, I'm happy to share that if it would be helpful for other people.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Rachel. I think, I imagine that would be really good for people to see. Pete, did you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. I know we have policies and things, but not specific terms of reference. I think we cover most of our things off actually in advance of the day about the actual activity. But it's interesting around the behaviour and what's right and what's not. So I have to dig that out. But that would be great to get a copy, please, Rachel. Thank you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. And I think someone shared something in the chat as well that might be useful. So, oh yeah, Denise. Thank you, Denise. Yeah, so yeah, the kind of volunteer days often do come under the ESG, and I guess they may have their own policies in house as well around how to conduct yourself on a volunteering day. But yeah, definitely useful to have something in your organisation as well that you can share with them and even ask them to sign before they take part. Have we got any more questions for the speakers, or just questions people want to put out to the room? Yeah. We've got some other kind of themes that came through the questions that were asked beforehand. So, and this is one we get asked a lot, is around finding suitable roles for corporate volunteers. So obviously for organisations that run lots of events or fundraising or have a zoo, have somewhere kind of outdoors that there are lots of physical hands-on tasks that need doing. It can be easier to think of roles that corporates can do, especially if they're coming in a group. But we touched on it a little bit. I know, Pete, you mentioned it, a kind of office-based tasks. Sometimes, as Laura said, that it's referred to as skills-based volunteering, so using the skills that people might have in their professional role in a charity. It's not a phrase that we like to use because, yeah, we feel that all volunteering is skilled, but that's an easy way to define it. So, yeah, has anyone had much experience of having corporates come in, maybe individually or in small groups, to do things like working on policies and procedures or finance or consulting with you about marketing, social media, any of that? Because that can be a really good route to go down if you haven't got those kind of physical jobs that need doing, but actually you've got a ton of admin that needs sorting in the back office, or your finances are in a bit of a mess. Rachel said no, that's not something that you guys do. I know you've mentioned it already, Pete, but could you give us any examples of what corporate volunteers have done in the office?
Yeah, sure. So beyond the kind of day-to-day admin side of things, I think for some of the professional kind of partners, we want to use their absolute skills. And I think if I just use the trail as a really good example, there's a lot of health and safety and logistics around the trail. Particularly when we install and deinstall, and for somebody like me, on top of everything else, it's you need to get it right. So we had one of our corporate guys in who works for a construction team to come in and help with those risk assessments, the planning. And it's brilliant because you're getting reassurances there. You kind of making sure that everything is correct, that safety is, as we all know, our real high importance. And sometimes if you try and do it yourself, that's a lot of load to carry really as well. So by getting that professional support and somebody who knows what they're talking about is really, really important. And I think they enjoy it too, because beyond sort of delivering lots of bags of sand or something, they're suddenly delivering a cow or an elephant or something like that on the back of the truck is a bit more exciting for them. So yeah, that's really good. And also the mentoring side of things does extend beyond our young people. Sometimes the mentoring to support the team when they have certain things come up is also really important, about sort of CPD. It's not really training, but it's getting advice. And I think sometimes advice is really good, even if it's just sense checking something, to have somebody there that you can send it to and say, as our friend, as our partner, what do you think about this? Or we're thinking about doing this. So it doesn't have to be long-winded, it doesn't have to be half a day, but sometimes it's just having somebody there that can check something for you and just make sure you're doing it right.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pete. And can I ask how those volunteers that have been doing those kinds of tasks have found you? Have they come through kind of group activities that have happened before? Or did they approach you saying, actually, I want to use my skills that I use, you know, in the workplace?
I think we would approach them actually in a lot of ways. I think if there's a specific ask, you might put something out on LinkedIn, but actually it's normally through your current relationship with a corporate. There might be somebody within that partnership or that company that can help you. I think the mentorship is quite specific. It's about getting the right person who really wants to do it. So they have to go through a separate application to become a mentor. But anybody you need quick advice with or specific advice is probably best to go with the people you know rather than throw something out there. But my mantra is, if you don't ask, you don't get. You really have to ask sometimes and be quite specific, and you normally get somebody come back to try and help you. Just my experience, really, though.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Pete. There has been a question about that in the chat from Christine. Are there issues around professional volunteers offering advice? I've been told that any advice given isn't covered by the professional insurance. That's not a sort of issue that I've heard coming up before. I would have guessed that that would be relevant if it was like legal or financial advice.
Sometimes legals like surveyors, planners, builders. It depends on the individual, who their employer is and what their employer's insurance are and what they have permission to do. If they've been given permission to volunteer and they're a surveyor and that's what they're doing, it's generally covered, but it's always sort of worth checking with the individual first. And the same with sole traders. It might be that they need to check their own insurance policies, and they might have to sort of sign some sort of like waiver to say, you know, this is advice only, I'm not giving you, you know, a categorical, this is what you need to do. So it is on a case by case, but it's always worth, if you're doing something that's around that legal space, planning, building, or anything like that, just to make sure, you know, if the advice is just sort of their personal opinion, is it actually professional advice, and how it's covered.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. There's another kind of theme that's come through with the questions is actually, how do you get out there and start building those relationships? So Pete, you've talked about sort of going to those businesses that you've already got a relationship with to help with the kind of office-based volunteering. But how did you make those relationships? Is it through networking? Is it LinkedIn, going to physical networking events? I don't know if anyone's got any experiences of that they can share. I know we've got Emma on the call, who is our in-house networking guru. So she might have some ideas.
It is also sometimes a bit of everything, isn't it? Obviously, we use the platform to match corporates to organisations in need, and we have a lot of sort of like hand-holding that's involved with that to support the corporates to use the platform effectively, and share what they can offer the sector with our networks and vice versa. But also events, existing networks, LinkedIn, social media, word of mouth. I'm sure Emma's got a lovely long list of fruitful avenues to explore.
No pressure.
None at all.
So I think I would say, you know, getting out and about, getting your face out there, being out to networking events, face to face for me is always the best thing I think that you can do when it comes to meeting up with corporates, networking with people. What I tend to find actually when we're out and about is that there's a real interest in corporates wanting to support charities. Very often those conversations I have with people aren't necessarily then of the benefit of Voluntary Norfolk. It can often be, you know, people like with Pete, with Break or other charities. And we do send a lot of people to Get Involved Norfolk. So my definite advice is that you are advertising your opportunities on Get Involved, because that's where we send a lot of corporates that are interested in supporting the sector.
Thank you. And yeah, I would say as well, one of the questions that was raised in advance was about the difficulty of getting responses, especially from large companies. So, you know, firing off lots of emails. I would say from what I know about this is that that's probably not the best route to go down. And as you say, Emma, getting your face out there and actually getting a face the other end as well, so you have a contact, someone that you've kind of got a human connection with it. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think, you know, relationship building is key to all of this. Having had those contacts that you meet when you're out face to face, then those connections, you know, continuing that on LinkedIn is really important. Pete, I know you're a serial networker as well. So you may have other things to add, but it's, yeah, it's Norfolk's, and I know we've got people outside of Norfolk, but Norfolk's a really good, strong community. And when you're out and about, you see the same faces again and again, and you can really build on those relationships. They're really key, really important.
Don't call me that, Emma. That's terrible. The only thing I'd add about that is actually it is really difficult to get the right people in a corporate. The bigger they are, the harder it is in a lot of ways. But if you do your research and actually look online and look on the teams, sometimes there's someone there who's a volunteer coordinator or an ESG, CSR contact or community contact. So it's about, you know, they don't always advertise it, but like through Emma said, through LinkedIn, you can do a little bit of research and find the right person, and that saves a lot of wasted emails, really. But it's not a quick thing. It takes a bit of time to do that research.
And it can be tricky when, you know, we're all so stretched. We know that everyone is at capacity in the sector, but maybe even some of that research could be a task that a volunteer or an admin assistant might be able to do to get you started. And then you've got a list of leads that you can follow up when you have time. So does anyone have any other questions or sort of burning issues they want to bring up before we move into a little bit of reflection and close? We'd love to hear if anyone's got good or bad experiences of trying to engage with corporates or trying to find appropriate tasks, then do, you know, pop something in the chat if you don't want to come on the mic.
Absolutely. Or any ideas that you'd like to explore. Nikki.
Well, I was just wondering how much capacity of the volunteer coordinators is an issue in here. And I thought it was really interesting that Rachel was saying that they'd actually employed somebody to manage the corporate volunteers. And clearly in an operation like Banham Zoo, where you have masses of opportunities and they're making such an enormous contribution, there is an economic rationale to saying it's worth investing in one person's salary if we're getting 5,000 hours of volunteer time. But for other organisations, it might not be quite so clear, and there's might come a point where it's just a bit too much to handle. But it can the case be made to the trustees that, or whoever, that, you know, a new post needs to be created? And I wonder if that was something that had slightly stopped people from following this route.
Yeah. You can just raise your hands if you've had sort of capacity issues around engaging with corporate volunteers. Just raise your hand. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to.
Yeah, Madeline said in the chat, capacity is definitely an issue.
And you're not alone. I ping out a lot of emails asking people if they've got capacity to support a group or a few corporate volunteers, and we do get that a lot, that they just don't have the capacity to support groups or even have sort of individuals for odd days.
Right, so if anyone's got any other questions, please do pop them in the chat or come off mic now. But we have a question for you, which is just a bit of reflection. Can you pop in the chat or tell us one thing you're going to do as a result of attending the session today? Even if that's just to have a think or to watch the recording of this again, or to read the blog that Laura's posted about Samaritans.
Yeah. Or you can add your opportunities to get involved, Norfolk, and I will help you through it as well.
Make a plan.
Good start.
That's great, Kat.
Plan.
Identify any roles for commercial volunteers. Great. Check if we're connected on LinkedIn. Excellent. You could connect with all of us. Read the blog and reflect. Post on Get Involved.
Yeah.
Really consider a charge. Yes, Pete, I think that is definitely worth doing if you've already got a strong offer and you've built that kind of support up from different corporates. Explore Get Involved Norfolk, maybe get some help. Yes, you can come to us for help, Denise. Putting together application forms for corporate volunteers, brilliant. And if Rachel is happy to share some of her guidance around that, that would be really helpful.
And if anybody wants a specific session on like Get Involved Norfolk and getting the most out of it, targeting corporate volunteers, how we can utilise the forms functions and all of those types of things, then do let me know, because I'm happy to do it for a small group, or I can do like recording. But if that'd be helpful, do let us know.
Really good to see lots of actions from today. That's brilliant. So I'm just going to share couple more slides with you and then we'll let you go, so you'll get a bit of time back in your day, which is great.
It's always a bonus.
Yeah, always a bonus. So we've just got a few upcoming events and opportunities to highlight with you, all around volunteering, volunteer management and related topics. So is that next week? Next week, I think we've got a workshop run by our colleagues in the Momentum team. So Momentum supports specifically youth work organisations and those working with children and families. So they have a great workshop coming up on helping charities to engage young people in work experience. And we've got some great speakers there. I believe Claire from New You is one of the speakers. She's just left. That's going to be really interesting because it's an area that not a lot of charities or social enterprises engage with, and we know that young people are really struggling to find work experience placements, but we're going to really explore how that can benefit the charitable organisation as well, and kind of we're going to work through that sort of debate around the time and capacity issues, and actually, you know, it may not be right for your organisation at this time, but it could really benefit you to kind of build up a sort of base of support, I guess, around young people who might then come back and volunteer for your charity or act as an ambassador. So do check that one out. The lovely Claire is posting the links to all these in the chat. We've got the next Volunteer Coordinators Network meeting in May. I don't know if you want to say any more about that.
Yeah, so it's a slightly delayed coordinators meeting, purely because June is going to be a really busy month for us with the Festival of Volunteering and the Volunteering Extravaganza and Volunteers Week. So we've done it quite close to that, just to help everybody prepare, go through any sort of like issues, share what's happening across Norfolk, and just sort of have a get together and a chat in preparation for that. If you're not part of Volunteer Coordinators Network, do reach out to any of the team. Or pop it in the chat and we will send you the links to join, and make sure you've got the links to the next coordinators meeting. If you can't make it, the notes to all the meetings are on our Padlet, so we can send out those to you as well.
Thank you. Yes, that leads nicely onto the Volunteer Extravaganza, which if you don't know about it, where have you been? But we're running it for the third year running on the 4th of June. And we're nearly booked up for stalls. I think there's a few more inside and 8 or 9 outside stalls available. Obviously, we're hoping for a lovely day because it is early June. And if you're outside, you'll get a sort of prominent position. So do check those out. So we are charging for that event because we have to cover the hire of the forum and the promotion that we're doing. So there's a charge of £35 plus VAT for your organisation, but it should be well worth it. Last year we had over 2,000 visitors, and we're hoping for more this year. So do sign up while you can, and that is part of the inaugural Norfolk Festival volunteering, which is going to run for the whole of June, which Nikki or Laura may want to say a bit more about. But essentially, it's an expansion of Volunteers Week just for Norfolk, because we're special. And we've got lots of amazing volunteers and voluntary organisations that we want to showcase. And a week just isn't really long enough to do that. Would you like to say any more at all, Nikki?
Go on, Nikki.
Go on, Nikki.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think you've set the context brilliantly. Yeah, this is really an opportunity for organisations either to say thank you to their existing volunteers, but also to look at recruiting new volunteers, which so many organisations need. And it can be on whatever scale suits organisations. It can be very low key. It can just be for people in your hometown. You could have something that was a bit bigger than that. You might want to take part in either say like the volunteering extravaganza, but there will also be volunteer fairs in King's Lynn and in Great Yarmouth, so there's opportunity to join those. It will all be featured. There's going to be a page. Oh, well, there is a page on the Get Involved Norfolk website with a map. So if you post anything you're doing as a community event, then it will appear on there, and anybody who's interested in volunteering will be able to, and perhaps can't get to the extravaganza, can see, oh, actually, quite close to me, there's that organisation that's wanting volunteers, and they've got an open day, or they've got a coffee morning, or they've got to come and meet our volunteers session, or they've got to come and say hello to our animals. Whatever it might be is a way of attracting new volunteers at a time when we will be trying to raise the profile, get it on the radio, get more coverage, be using social media to raise awareness of volunteering, and you might as well benefit from that if you can easily slot in an event and let us know about it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Nikki. And do get in touch if you're not quite sure what you could do. We did have a session, an info session on this last month, which we can share with you, but we can also have a chat if you're not quite sure how to engage, but you want to.
Yeah, there's also assets on the Festival of Volunteering. So there's a guidance document, some ideas of what you can do, and also the logo that's downloadable. That's on the resources on Get Involved Norfolk. I think Claire's already put the link in the chat, so that is further up, but we can put it in the notes as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And then, yeah, just a final note on some resources. So we've mentioned the Volunteer Coordinators Network. So lots of you look like you want to sign up to that, which is great. When you join that, you get a link to the Padlet, which is an online notice board, which Laura updates regularly, but you can post on as well. So lots of resources, questions and advice on there for people who manage or coordinate volunteers. And then Get Involved Norfolk, again, if you don't know about it, get on there and have a look. And get in touch with Laura or Claire to find out more if you're struggling with the site. But we've got something like 12,000 potential volunteers registered on there. If that's, yeah, I'm out of date. Yeah, I can't keep up. And sort of about 500 live opportunities.
Yeah. So like Tasha said, we've got the two platforms. Get Involved Norfolk is for volunteer recruitment. Get Involved Skills is for training for staff and volunteers. So the resources you'll find on Get Involved Norfolk are primarily around the platform itself, how to use it and how to get the most from it. Resources on Get Involved Skills are around volunteer management. There's templates, there's sort of guidance documents, there's links to other resources, and we'll send all of those out to you as well if you want to have a look at those.
Brilliant. Thank you. So, yeah, unless there are any last questions or anything you want to ask about the events or the resources, we'll give you 13 minutes extra of your day back. And, oh, sorry, I should have mentioned, we have a survey just to get some feedback on this session. Please complete it if you can. Use 3 of those 13 minutes to complete it, because we also have to report back to our funders, and it's really helpful for us to see how useful our sessions are and what we could do to help you in the future.
Nice to see you all.
Lovely to see
we
you.
Hope to see you all at our next event or our next coordinators meeting or at the extravaganza or one of the other volunteer fairs across the county. But have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.